guys, this is Ocha and this is going to be my VR to April's question about FOMO decks. I know I posted about FOMO is the devil earlier, not this year, so it's probably last year, but I know I posted about the topic of FOMO earlier. If I remember, I will link it down below, so if you want to see that, and hear more about it, you can watch it. But for this VR, I have some questions, which it's so much nicer and easier to, be able to have questions on my phone. So there are 7 questions, and I kind of wanted to do this VR because it's a different approach of FOMO. It's not about is it bad, is it good, are we doomed because FOMO exists? So first one is, what triggers deck FOMO for you? And I was thinking about this, before making this video, and I think a big part of it is that it's my, my childhood, and I didn't grow up poor, so don't get me wrong. We were always well taken care of by my parents. We had enough. But once you grew up and you look back, you realize how much your parents sacrificed for you and how much more other people had. And I never realized really truly, I think, until I was an actual adult, how much that I can never have the newest, shiniest thing because I have other siblings in the picture, and our family wasn't in a position where we could buy the newest shiniest thing for everyone in the family. And if you can't buy it for everyone, you shouldn't buy it for anyone, because that's not fair. So, and like I said, I was well taken care of, I was loved, so it's not like I lagged. But I think it's consumerism that's part of it, that triggers it, because you feel like you should be able to buy all the new and shiny stuff even though you don't really need them. So for me, every time I see something that looks really cool, no, it's not every time, but most of the time it's about, I'm not able to afford it. And even though logically I know that I shouldn't even pine after something like that, because I don't need that many decks. I the logical mind knows that, but I think it's just a leftover feeling of lack from my childhood, early teenage years, that I would like to be in a position where I can just be like, what, I'm gonna buy everything, and if I don't like it, I give it away. I would love to be in that place. And I guess, it's probably one of the lessons that I have to learn in life, in this one at least, that it's not the case, and I have to make peace with it. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not. It's really hard to see people getting excited for things you can't afford. So, and not because, it's not just that money aspect, it's feeling left out of the community, of a community, and a community doesn't matter because you're not good enough. So I think the underlying cause is, and it's not rational, it's not conscious, it's just, now that I sat down and thought about these things, I realized that, I want to be part of the cool kids group, and even though I know I don't have to have the decks, because real friendships and real connections don't build on material things, I know that, but it's a very rewarding and positive feeling to be able to be like, yeah, I have that deck too, and we can talk about it because we all have it, and you're part of that group. And I think it happened more often that I wasn't part of a group like that than I was, that it's still something that I'm very sensitive about. It hits me harder than it should. So I think for me, FOMO is not about missing out on an actual deck, because I missed out on so many decks. There were so many decks that are out of print before I even knew what tarot was, like 20 years ago. So it's not about that. It's about missing out on being part of a group being accepted, which is, you know, shadow work and all that stuff. So I'm hopeful, and I'm kind of positive that one day I will be able to deal with it. I just still have to work on it. So yeah, I think that's for me the biggest trigger, is that feeling left out and feeling not good enough, you know. If you don't have that, if you're not able to have it, it's not the not have it, if you're not able to have it. So yeah, that's the longest answer I think in this VR. um, Second question, what is a FOMO deck purchase you regret? To be honest, I was thinking about, but I'm not saying every deck that I bought out of impulse to, you know, calm this feeling, or, you know, just shove this feeling away, is still in my collection, or I still have it, or I still like it, or I even use it. But I learned something from each deck, if nothing more than I learned about if I like the size, if I like the cardstock. I learned about the theme or how I use it. So I don't think I regret anything in that sense, because with decks I can easily see that every deck comes into my life for a reason. It's funny how hard I have that lesson in other areas of my life, but I mean, to learn that lesson. But with decks I can easily be like, you know what, now I know, because decks are tactile experiences, and no matter how much walkthroughs and flip throughs you watch of a deck, until it's in your hand, you cannot actually decide for sure if it's for you or not. So even though it's a very financially not sustainable thing, the more decks you buy, the bigger the chance that you will have a collection in the end that you will absolutely love, because you went through things, you try them out. But you know, if you're lucky, you have friends who lend you decks, and you can check them in person, which is a great help as well. I try to do that, you know, and not just buy decks. The third one is, how do you set limits? To be honest, when I started getting decks, my limit was a deck in a month, which was fine, because I always had something to look forward to, you know, getting in. So that was more or less, I kept with the one deck per month, or maybe two, but I was able to afford it back then, which is just like 2 years ago. Right now, honestly, guys, my country might even go bankrupt this fall, because I cannot see how the government is going to be able to steal as much as they do, and you know, pretend that there's nothing wrong with anything currently. Besides the prices going up all over Europe because of what's happening and the instability that comes with it, our economy is just down. It's going downfall ever since, because of how they handle things, because of the politics they are following, or you know what they are doing. They raised the electricity and gas bills. They announced that they're gonna, you know, stop the protection that was around the prices, and they're gonna go back to charging a whole lot more after a certain amount for each month. We're above that amount all the time, and they're like, the average, you know, household doesn't exceed that amount. Maybe we're not an average, but you know, we're just a household. We're not that big or rich or whatever. Yet it's gonna be, you know, we're in a position where we have no idea how we're gonna be able to, you know, heat our home or use electricity, which we need because we work from home and stuff like that. So, and there's a lot of families in the same place, so they are panicking. They are making decisions that they are trying to fill holes in the government, in the economy, from places that are really affecting people. So honestly, I don't know what's gonna happen. So to be honest with this, I don't have to set limits, because our currency is worth nothing these days as compared to the euro. We're historical downfall. So all I can do is just go on book depository and just go watch prices go up, and even mass market decks are starting to be out of my limit or budget or whatever. So yeah, I don't have to worry about setting limits, but that's hopefully not forever. That's just current situation. What I did before is, and what works for me is, when things are good, I guess, is that I save up for something. And I saved up for a US trip before COVID. That fell through because all the shit that happened. But then I decided, because I wanted to create more decks, that I want to invest in an iPad. So I started saving up for that. And I can't set aside a large amount each month, so it takes me a while. It took me a while to save up, but I was lucky because I was able to. So if everything would be fine, and I would have that surplus amount that I can spend on decks or whatever, I would start saving up for something. And what I mean is like a trip, or something like an iPad, or a new laptop which I will need at some point, or a phone or something like that, which will cost more. Because if I have something that I know that I'm saving up for, which will add to my life in a positive way at some point, it's so much easier to be like, okay, I can wait with this deck, because I don't need to rush with it. If it's a mass market, there are certain decks that I would really like to get. And one comes to mind currently is the Peter Morbacher Angelarium Tarot. It's gonna be a Kickstarter, so I have no idea how much it's gonna be at that point. I'm hoping it's not gonna happen too soon, but he kind of said maybe at the end of the year, but I'm fingers crossed things are gonna get delayed. I know. But that's a deck that I would really like to get. So, saving up for something like that. I think it helps, if your focus is not just on, I have money that I can freely spend on decks. Start saving up for something like a trip, or, something like that. I think that can help. Okay, that was long as well. How many decks do I have? I don't have a current number, because I'm kind of in the middle of decluttering and reorganizing and evaluating my collection. I think I have around 50 each decks, but the ones that I'm actually keeping, I think it's around 30 or something. The pile that I'm thinking about trying to sell, I'm not sure if anybody is going to buy any tarot decks in Hungary anytime soon. Maybe, there are always foreigners whose money is worth a lot more these days, so for them it's good. But yeah, I don't have a lot. It's more than I need, I guess, or I need is a very broad definition. It's more than I want to have, because there are some decks that I just have, and I don't want to have decks that I have. I want to have decks that I only want to have decks that I use. So, I'm in a process of minimizing things. Next question. How many decks do you need? Honestly, one. And, I don't need more. I can read with one deck, obviously. One tarot deck. With Oracle, maybe a bit more. I need my own decks. But so what? I want more than what I need. I guess that's okay. It should be. What is a positive deck purchase from FOMO? Honestly, this is one, I think it was the first one, is the Ogesh and Thorn. And this was one of those that I saw it on Kickstarter, and I loved the idea of a watercolor deck. And then I was like, oh, but it's more on the more expensive side. Plus, it wasn't even on the more expensive side, or too expensive side back then, because Kickstarter prices are, I think, a bit too much these days. People are charging for a majors only deck for like $55, and I'm like, why? Well, but my main issue was with this deck. is that it was an animal deck. Oh, look at that. And I was like, I'm not an animal deck person. You know, I don't need an animal deck, even if it's cute. But then I did a reading about this deck, and the cards were like, it's gonna be fine if you miss out on it. You're not gonna know what you miss out on, which was a very cool answer, I think. You know, you're not gonna look back at regret, because pretty much you won't know what you missed out on. So that was you can, you know, go on and not get it. But the get it side was, if you get it, it's gonna be pretty much a soulmate connection, which was, I was like, what's this animal deck and me, like a soul deck? But when I got it, the connection was instant. I was so pleasantly surprised because we get along so well, and I love the card. So on this deck, when it turned out that there's gonna be a dragon deck, I knew that, you know, this one is going to take a seat back, but it's just a tiny seat back. It's a full deck, and I absolutely love this deck. So this was such a pleasant surprise, and I love everything about this deck. I love how it feels, how it looks, how it reads. I don't know, I just love everything about it, honestly. So yeah, that was absolutely a positive surprise, and I left this one. Okay, now just me. And even the tuck box is a good kind of tuck box. It's not one that will destroy your cards or it's hard to use. It's good. Everything is good about this one. So yeah, that was a positive one, definitely. And 7, what are your thoughts on the current state of deck FOMO in our community? I think we went from panicking about FOMO and, you know, decluttering everything because, oh my god, I have too much. I think that was about last year, maybe, after, you know, restrictions started to lift up and people realized what they'd done. You know, with all the decks, there was a panic in the community of, oh my god, I spent so much money, I shouldn't have done that. And there was so many people feeling guilt and shame, which kind of sucks because we shouldn't feel it. We bought these decks, and I mean, most of us in the community bought decks because we had to have something that helped us through things. So, you know, a la judgment card, we need to be more understanding about our past actions and why we did it. But I think currently we're in the phase of talking about things, you know, like this deck shows we are trying to figure out what triggers it, how to tackle it better, how hard we need to be about our FOMO purchases on us, on ourselves, you know, if we really need help because we're just buying and buying and not able to stop ourselves from it, because I think that's a completely different thing. And the community is, you know, the conversation shifted from the view that the responsibility is on the people sharing their stuff to, hey, we need to take responsibility for our own actions, which is not, you know, easy immediately for everyone. So I understand why some people are like, it was too much, but it's those people's fault who show their collection, and it's not, you know, they're not the ones clicking on the buy button, so it's not. We hype up, and I do the same. I mean, I hype up the Oak Ash and Thor and the Smoke Ash and Embers and everything that's gonna come from Stephanie. I'm gonna hype it up because I love her decks and I kind of love her as well. So, you know, every time she comes out with something, I'm gonna be excited because I know that Adam's artwork and her words or her view on the deck works so well for me that I'm gonna be hyped up about it, because I'm really excited for the Oracle decks, you know, like the Oracle deck. I mean, I guess there's gonna be more, I don't know, but, you know, I'm excited for the Oracle deck. I was excited for the coin, and I still have to learn how to flip it. I'm getting better, you know, flip it without actually breaking anything. But that's useful, and I use it, and it's just so much fun. And, you know, I'm gonna be honest with every time that I post about something that I'm really excited for, that, hey, this is just me, and I try to say it in every video that I post, that, hey, this is me, I'm excited, I'm biased, if you're curious why, keep watching. But that's why I post flip throughs, because then you can just look at the cards and make up your mind if you want to. But I also think that it's very important for the community to start posting more long-term experience review videos, because a deck, and I'm not saying, that you can be objective about the deck, but the more people share their long-term experiences with the deck, the easier for it gets for other people to decide if it's actually something that they want or not. And what you have to know is, when you watch these reviews, if your previous deck experiences align with that person's experiences or not. Because if you know that someone loves and appreciates deck for a completely different reason than you do, and what works for them doesn't work for you, you can safely watch their hype up, like happy and excited videos, knowing that even though they're excited and even though the deck looks cool, you know that it's not going to work for you, because none of their previous decks that they loved work for you. But also, if you know someone whose opinion you can value in this aspect, because what works for them 90% of the time worked for you as well, then you can be more confident you picking up or not picking up a deck based on what they say. Obviously, it's always our decision, but we can take help from these videos. So I would love to have people posting more long-term experiences. And I kind of hate when people say that, oh, they're not going to talk about this deck because there's so many people talked about this deck already. And if it's a first impression, yeah, true, yeah, a lot of us talked about decks, but we bring into the conversation something new every time we talk about decks. So I would like to encourage everybody who wants to post about decks, even if it's a first impression, but especially if it's a long term, please do it, because no matter how many people talked about a deck, there's always a need for people adding to the conversation around each deck. So if I can ask anything from anyone, then that's gonna be the one that I'm gonna ask. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, and see you in the next one. Bye.